Today is the day. Now is the moment for you to stop being a martyr. Stop suffering from the Captain Save-A-Hole complex. All right, we're going to get into this topic and a few others in today's video. But before we begin, my name is Tamara Tamu. This is the Unleashed Alchemy YouTube channel. We're on this platform. We talk about bringing the unseen into the scene so that you can go against the grain and live a soul-fulfilled life where you are operating in complete spiritual ecstasy in your gifts, where you are calling forth heaven on earth as you see it. Okay, so let's get into today's episode. So here's what I want to say first. Religion elicits a savior complex. Okay, how and where does this complex originate? So we've all heard the phrase, love your enemies, turn the other cheek, and every iteration of those two phrases, okay? And what has happened, okay, is that it has pushed people into martyrdom, all right? Religion also says to suffer for Christ's sake. People in the churches, the church leaders themselves took that phrase and they made it an identity. This identity, not only does it justify struggle in your life, but it also invites more struggle and layers and layers and layers upon struggle until struggle becomes your identity. It's what you expect. So, struggles for people who are caught in programming, it becomes a righteousness barometer. It becomes a holiness barometer. So, the more you suffer, the more you struggle, the more you allow yourself to be the martyr, somehow that makes you closer to this God. Somehow that makes you more holy. This is what religious programming does. And this identity doesn't just exist in the church. It exists in society as a whole. Okay? So this identity then, it morphs into being humble. And the word humble, just the definition of it, I can give you the definition, which is what I normally do, but this time I'm going to invite you to look up the word humble. Really look at that definition and see what it says. So that word in itself deserves its own episode. So that struggle identity, the martyr identity, morphs into a person being humble. Then what happens is that you shrink. And then you shrink your identity, you shrink your presence, you shrink your gifts, you shrink your desires, you shrink your dreams. And then you become susceptible. What do you become susceptible to? Let's talk about it. You allow yourself to be taken advantage of. So I used to go to churches where there was always a core group of people that were dependent upon to do certain things for the church. Whether it was actually like working in the church, giving money to the church. If the so-called leader or pastor of the church or pastors of the church needed something, didn't matter what it was, the pastor would call somebody in that core group to do the task. And I've literally seen where people would drop everything that they were doing to complete this task or try Now, to this group of people, by everyone else in the church, these people were looked at as favorites, when really this core group of people were being taken advantage of. Also, this core group of people, and I alluded to this earlier, they were expected to give certain amounts of money to the church. Oftentimes, many times, these people were the first in church and also the last to leave a church service, just in case they were needed for some special assignment. Okay? This is kind of like the mafia, the mob boss who has their core group of people, their helpers. That's what that sounds like to me. And I never put the two and two together, but just as I'm delivering this message to you, that's the first thing that came to my mind. So we got people getting taken advantage of. It also makes people susceptible to bullying, being talked down to, being demeaned in front of people, being the brunt of every joke, being physically assaulted, being disrespected. And I'm giving you that because that's what I have witnessed in church. That's what I have experienced, okay, in religion. I mean, we're talking about adults putting themselves through this, okay? So another thing I want to add to that too is this is why you've seen these videos that have been floating around of, these so-called religious leaders in these churches, talking crazy to other people, thinking that their title or their position gives them the right to be just flat out rude. That falls underneath that bullying category. So, also, allowing yourself to be pointed out as an example of what not to do. I actually just saw this at the time of this recording. I just saw a church. I forgot what I was even looking at or looking for. I think I was uploading one of my own videos and just saw a video where a pastor was literally putting a family up on their platform and pointing to this family and saying, this is what you don't want your family to look like. This is what you don't do if you have a family. That is a perfect example, recent example of bullying. This is what religious programming does. Now, let's get into another point here. You can physically free yourself from that. That is a beautiful, wonderful, glow up, elevated step. Now, speaking from experience, now what you have to do after you have physically left, you have to pull the programming thread so that identity is no longer a part of you, so that you can kill that operating system, so that you no longer add updates to that operating system, so that you no longer give energy to that operating system, so it can no longer feed your identity. So if we don't do that, here's what it can look like to neglect that inner work. You start to expect struggle through self-sabotaging efforts. So you, for example, you may not have someone bullying you, but because that is what you're used to keep that identity and to keep that experience alive in your life, you will self-sabotage and put yourself in the position and surround yourself with people who are bullies, who are narcissists, What can this self-sabotage look like? Again, as we take this further, always being a mother or father figure to somebody. Now, I know you may be thinking, well, is that a bad thing? Well, let's keep going. Always thinking you have to be the one to be there for somebody because you've told yourself that you are showing compassion, when really it's not in your heart to do. When really what you want to say is, you know what, I feel tired, get somebody else to do it. Always being the person that has to be the one to support, that has to be the one to show all this support to everyone else. What you're really doing is being a crutch, aka Captain Save a Hoe. I know that sounds funny, but there's some topics where I just need to come on here and say exactly what it is. If you're offended by that, then there are other channels where people will talk nicer. This is just not the channel, okay? So anyway, going back to the other point. You can allow yourself to be a punching bag. What does this look like? This is also another form of self-sabotage, not speaking up for yourself because you think not speaking up for what you need and what you desire is showing compassion. Example, not saying something or not wanting to say something or do something to bring up someone's pain or hurt. Again, being a crutch to someone who doesn't want to be in the truth about their own shit. So now this person that you are so-called supporting or so-called being there for, now the person that is being saved and rescued by you thinks that they are okay in their shadow projected behavior, which is causing them, not only are you being a crutch to them, but it's causing them to live beneath the life that they could be living. Meanwhile, here you are, still the adoptive godmother, godfather, mentor, adoptive aunt, uncle, whatever you want to call it. You may say, well, there is nothing wrong with supporting someone or helping someone. And I agree. Before we get into that, I want to tell you this. All of these points that I'm talking about, this also applies to family as well. We're talking about interactions with everyone. This is what can happen when you don't pull the thread on that particular martyrdom, programmed religious thread, okay? So now let's go back to this last point. So you may say now there's nothing wrong with supporting someone or helping someone. I agree. However, you have to ask yourself, why are you doing it? Is it because you feel like you have to, or because you just want to be nice, or you don't want to be viewed as mean if you say no? Is it out of obligation? Is this your identity as a martyr, as a captain save whomever, as, oh, I just have to be the one to support, I just want to show that I'm supportive? Is this coming from a need for outside validation, which is a part of religious programming? Do you not want to look like a bad person for saying no to someone's request for you to be a supportive link in their life? You can help, but to what extent? You can be a support, but to what extent? Have you placed boundaries? So, to conclude this is why you have to understand that your nervous system needs to adopt a new operating system. This new operating system does not function in programming. This new operating system is not available for programming. This new operating system is not available for a struggle identity, for a martyr identity. This new operating system that is within you, that wants to be expressed, is full of power, sovereignty, divinity, freedom, spiritual ecstasy, not bound by religious programming or programming otherwise. So that is a very important point. If you are watching this and you have left a religion, it is very important that you pull the thread completely, because to physically leave is not enough. You have to make room for that new operating system to come online. If you're going to leave the religion, then leave all the way. Leave all the way. And I can say that because I have done that. I had to go in and do the inner work. When I saw me leaving, I left. However, my life was still in shambles. And I was forced to go within, and all of these realizations came up. Was it easy to face all of that? No. It was a challenge. I saw where I was expecting struggle. I saw where I was self-sabotaging. I saw where I was not speaking up for myself because I didn't want to look like the bad guy, or because I wanted to turn the other cheek. No, that was self-sabotaging. I was living below where I was put here to live. My expression, I put a lid on my own expression and my own spirituality, my own gifts, my own spiritual gifts. So that is why I bring this message to you. Pull that programming thread so you can be completely free. Now, in conclusion, if you are wanting more one-on-one support in doing that, I offer a 12-session package. And I may be offering more levels to that. But for now, I offer a 12-session package where I take you through the same process I went through. All right, to get you from programming to spiritual ecstasy, where you are functioning fully like a freaking X-Man out here, X-woman, because that's what you're put here to do. All right, so book a call with me so that we can talk more about how I can support you on your spiritual odyssey. The link to do that is in the description box of this video. All right, and until next time, cheers.